Hi, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us. This is a great show, a great way to kick off the series that I think will be good because we have, of course, the well known Matt Ricketts. He is our one and only famed, probably, well, he's well known. We know that. I go back a long ways, but I'll let him tell his history. But I will tell you, we go back to the point where he was still working for Southwest Airlines, and he was calling me for free consulting advice on his way to the airport every night. So that's how far back Matt and I go. And Ronnie and I met each other maybe about a year ago. We haven't met personally yet, but Zoom, I feel like I know him very well. He's been in business for 3 years, and he is our startup company. So the concept of this podcast, and it really kind of started, I think most of you know that I started Clean Smart Home Cleaning. And as I'm going through this, I mean, part of it is so much fun because it's like I could do this in my sleep. It's not my first rodeo, but part of it is all brand new, and part of it is the crap that I forgot about. So I'm hoping that Matt, and listening to a bunch of coaches and challengers, can take where Ronnie's getting what he's doing and moving forward and take the crap out of it before he gets there, Matt. So if you see something he says as he's saying his plan that you feel you would not go down that road again, and believe me, you've gone down a lot of roads, I'm sure, if you can help him from going down those roads, go after it and make him defend why he's doing that. Because the other part of us is how stubborn we are when we start out. And I'm no different now than I was 30 years ago. I'm going to go for repeat clients only. I'm not going to take any move in, move outs. I'm going to do this. I'm going to not do any Google. I'm going to knock on doors. I mean, and Matt's probably going, oh my God. And I intend to do 1.5 million in a year and a half. So let's see what your goal is, Ronnie. And Matt, we want your feedback.
All right, cool. So currently well, the way that it started was back in 2022, whenever I originally kicked off. I was doing about 20K in revenue the whole year, and at 10% gross profit. So I had no idea what I was doing, right? Much like that stubbornness Sharon talked about. I was like, I don't need coaches. I'm going to figure this out. 2023 rolls by. I did 35K at 20% gross profit. A little better.
Gross profit.
Gross profit. So I'm talking like ticket minus labor. Again, I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I got with our mutual friend, Ryan Knoll of Tidy Casa, and had him kind of coach me through a lot of these things. Started reading Alex Hormozy, Tommy Mello, those kind of folks. 2024, we did 135,000 at 50% gross profit. Right now, on the books, we have $350,000 in top line revenue at 52% gross profit. We're on track to do 600,000, and my expectation or my goal is to be doing $100,000 per month by December.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's the first thing you fixed was the gross profit, right? Like that's, there are a lot of ways to go broke in this business, but the easiest way is to not have your gross profits be enough to pay all the other bills that you need to grow. So that's good. You've already fixed a big one. No, I have no problem with that number.
Yeah, so definitely on that point, like I completely agree. My pricing was wildly incorrect, and then I was paying the teams too much because again, I wasn't exactly sure what that should be. So raised my prices, which was fantastic because that knocked out like a lot of the low cost cleanings that people come through with, the ones who want to pay the least amount of money and expect the highest results, to where if they see that there's a dust mote on the ground, they're calling you back saying, hey, come re-clean, as opposed to like the more affluent folks who are just like, yeah, everything's good. We are so happy that you're here, because they just want reliability, consistency, and safety, right, is what I found. And so got in with those folks, and things are going far better than they were 2 years ago.
That's couple of good things I heard there was kind of like figuring out your ICP is your kind of like ideal customer profile. Like, I think it's different than what we often think of it is. Like, if you get too affluent, are they still your customer? Right? Like over 400,000, I found not to be our customer, and at least in my business, they have enough money to hire maybe multiple days per week, or there's some reasons why that isn't it. There's a pretty big sweet spot of income gap between 120 to 400 that you can kind of fill in, and that's what I've found, at least.
Yeah.
We found some of them to be even more worth in your area. And actually, where are you at? Where's your company?
It's a good point. I'm in Denver, Colorado, but I only focus on the south side of Denver, Littleton, Highlands Ranch, and Castle Rock. So again, the more affluent places, because that's where I live, is Highlands Ranch.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you mentioned that exact thing, because so I had the pleasure of meeting Tommy Mello, had dinner with him and everything, because the one question I wanted to ask is, how do I get into homes like yours? And he says, well, I mean, like, what is it? A1 makes something like 200 million EBITDA. They're good, right? And he was saying that he has his cleaners on staff. He's not going to go hire another company. He made a good pitch about two other entrepreneurs in the room saying, do not waste your time cleaning your own home. Hire house cleaners, because you're literally losing money if you're cleaning your own home. So I enjoyed that. But it was a good lessons learned of, like, now I know who not to market to, right? Because, like, why would I go for those folks if they're just putting those people on staff? So to your point, yeah, there is an income threshold to where it just doesn't make sense to go for those people.
Yeah, it depends. I'm sitting here in this Y workspace, and there's a single guy who is a very successful company. That's he is a customer, and he's well above that threshold that I described. He also lives alone with a dog, and really, he's not trying to have people over to his mansion and impress people. He lives in a condo, and just lives pretty simple. So there's a spectrum of you can't necessarily say income, but household values and things like that. They tell a story. So when I look at who our ICP is, anything much bigger than a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house is probably not an ideal customer for us, because they have, and there's different parts of town where that's the case, where we cover a pretty big geographic area, about 32 square miles or so,
Oh, wow.
from end to end. And there's parts of town where big houses are more common, and they're lower priced, and kind of developing. It's called St. It's a different county than our main business is, St. Charles County, but they're not. I don't think they're ICP for a lot of reasons, because their houses are so big, and they don't want to spend money. This is a Texas problem. Sharon could probably solve that kind of Texas problem. Big houses, not a lot of money yet because houses are cheap, but labor is still expensive, right? So,
Well, I'm
those are.
shocked that you're saying $400,000 income is what you said that you would stop at.
I think that they generally can afford to hire some extra help. They can afford to hire, somebody 2-3 days a week versus a cleaner. They can put somebody on staff, like a nanny, and then probably have the nanny do some of the cleaning, and it's less likely to be your ideal customer. I think the sweet spot for us is dual incomes. 150,000 to probably 300,000 is probably what makes up 80% of our customer base. So when we're creating marketing and things like that, that's our kind of our sweet spot of who is attracted to what we have to offer. Because at a certain point, you can hire labor. You're solving your time with money, and I'll even admit, in my household, we oftentimes will hire someone out of the company to work for us 10, 15, 20 hours a week, depending on our own needs. So we're not even customers anymore. I still pay them through the company, but I'll peel them off at half their jobs if we just need additional help.
Mm-hmm.
And have somebody as kind of our personal household help. So I don't know how to describe that, because it's not quite the personal assistant kind of level. We've done
Well,
that a couple times.
interesting. I have thought about that in my new company, because, in all honesty, the reason I started was because I was getting married this weekend, by the way. At my house 2 months ago, I'm laying in bed looking at the ceiling fan and literally got out of bed and took a picture of it because I'm going to use it and say I found it in somebody's office who doesn't know how to clean. There were literally this much dust on my ceiling fans and cobwebs growing between. I haven't had a cleaner since I divorced Mike 17 years ago because I couldn't find anybody. So I'm like, I can't do this. So I hired Laura, and by God, she's working 30 hours a week, and she's only done one job because she's put that much time on my house mat. And I'm going to say today, and I did this on a video the other day, the most valuable thing about owning a cleaning service is exactly what you just said. Your personal life is so wonderful because I love my house again. It looks like I just bought it. It just changed everything. So I get where you're coming from. However, after that tangent, want to say that I'm wondering whether or not, because I'm only doing repeat clients, if I'm not missing the boat, if I don't bring in windows and somebody who does the outside work this time, because exactly what you're talking about, I could fill the bill on.
So it's not in our strategy to go that direction. So I don't know that like, look, I look at it like this: we're really good at this one thing. We're really good at this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And like people always ask me, like, why don't you go after commercial? And I'm like, I think we'd be like, and not that we'd be bad cleaners. I think we clean too much. We would over clean. We couldn't get it right. I pay people too much. I pay people $25 an hour on average. Like, how am I going to afford to like when they want to get the cleaning for $30 an hour, $35 an hour? How am I going to give them and make any money? I think we would be fundamentally really commercial. Now, all these outside services, I think partnerships and things like that can make sense. Like you can go to our Instagram and see that we're actually kind of working on some partnerships. You'll see one with Vogel Heating and Cooling, where we're doing some partnerships with them. Where we're going to do air quality testing in our customers' homes if they want it for a very like much lower price than Vogel would do, and then Vogel can follow up if there's problems that come up. We see the value of like really good partnerships because here's a number that I really want most of us to think about in this industry is there's an idea of profit per X. Like, so every industry, every business has like a unit economic profit number that they're trying to make. So like you mentioned Southwest Airlines. I didn't work for Southwest, I worked for Republic, we worked for Regional, but
Oops.
the Southwest Airlines has this profit per seat that they're shooting for. Other airlines are maybe it's profit per plane. I'm sure there's actually profit per plane. Like American Airlines is profit per seat mile. Our number is profit per home, and when we're thinking of recurring customers, we're shooting for $50 of net profit per home per month. It's a very lean number when you really get to like we're only going to make $600 of net profit per customer per year. The good thing is we've got 1,300 customers, but it's like it's a very lean number. But the industry average is probably lower than our 50. It's probably closer to 25. And so can you expand that number with partnerships? You don't necessarily need more and more homes to make more profit. You might just need partnerships to like, can I expand that number from 50 to 60 by partnering with some good partners that we're referring each other back and forth and making. Again, I don't know the answer to that because we haven't solved it. But when you identify your profit per X, whatever that is for you, for us it's profit per home per month. And can you expand that profit without necessarily getting more customers? I think partnerships are a good way to do it. But additional services can be a way to do that too. It's just, can you be good? Like, when I look at what I'm going to do, we're going to be really good at anything before we put our name on it, right? Because we've got a brand to protect, and we're not just starting up. As a startup, you can mess up and probably put a new logo on next month, and no one will do any different. You can just try a few things. We've got more to lose at this point, by messing things up and not doing things well. So honestly, have you ever seen anybody do it well, like the outside cleaning, the inside cleaning? Um, I haven't seen it really. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, it all comes back to me now. I'll tell you what, it's amazing how much I forget. And I guess there's something about a startup that wants to try and do it all, which is so stupid. Because if you think back to what I said when I first got there in commercial, people talked about commercial. I said, you do one thing. My dad always said, you do one thing and you do it better than anybody else, and you will always be a success. And when I first joined Mike, he had 30 repeat clients in this fledgling cleaning service. And I walked off my corporate job. And he did everything. He did pools and lawns and cleaning. And he was gone one weekend, and I went out with my uncle and mowed a lawn, and it was filled with fire ants. And I was almost crying when I got home. My legs were all bit up, and my phone rang, and it was the woman whose lawn we were supposed to have mowed. We mowed the neighbor's lawn, who Mike stopped mowing because he never paid. And I never mowed another lawn. I never cleaned another pool. I stuck with cleaning and I did very well. So, Matt, this hour is worth it for me just to go, what the heck am I thinking? I mean, do one thing.
That's just my philosophy. It can work. I mean, like to be
No.
honest, I see it in the future that our businesses are going to evolve into more of like a home concierge and do all that. But I need to be way bigger than my company is to even think about. Like I want to be I want to be like 10 million and like 30% gross margin, net margins, making good money and then taking that capital into creating a concierge service or doing something else. But I see it as a future, but we have to be good at like so good at the things that we do if we really want to grow in this. And I think there's a lot of headwinds. You're starting, 2008, I started my company was the last time I think there was this strong of economic headwinds. Um, you know, Consumer confidence is at the lowest number it's been since 2008. So, that can bounce really quickly. Like, it's bouncing. You can see it in the markets every day. I don't know what the stock market's done today, but it's all over the place the last few weeks because it's just, there's uncertainty and uncertainty, you know, creates opportunity, but it also creates headwinds. So we started in 2008. The opportunity is there's a good labor pool in a market like this. The labor doesn't have as much leverage as it did the last few years. So it's a great time to start if you're, looking for labor, and can figure out how to, um, can fill their schedule. So that's the opportunity I think right now.
So if I can jump in, I have a question on that exact point, which is the hiring. And Sharon, don't go do a million things. You can't do a million things and do it well.
I won't. I won't.
90% of house cleaners can't even clean the house correctly. You think they're going to add all that stuff and be successful. But on the hiring front, like that is the constraint currently in my business. It's hiring good people, right? I'm really trying to build out my W-2 workforce, and because I want to maintain quality, control, everything else like that, right? And for other reasons beyond that. But I suppose I'm not exactly sure, like my lead source, my hiring funnel must be not very good because I'm having trouble identifying those people. We only really look at Indeed and Craigslist right now. So it's not like I'm out there doing a ton of stuff to where I'm in front of a bunch of eyes to get those people that I want. Because ideally, I'm trying to get people that actually don't really have that much house cleaning experience so they can take on Sharon's methods and processes and not like really go against the grain and everything. I want personality. I want good people, timeliness, reliability, personality, that kind of thing. How do you approach that, Matt?
I mean, I think we have an advantage in the fact that we have an established brand with literally, I can go into a fast food restaurant and there would be people there that know who we are in the market and want to work for us because they've been surfing on Indeed and CRM, but they don't qualify for us because they don't have transportation or some other limiter. I've actually literally been in places wearing a logo shirt before and be like, and people come up to us, I want to work for your company, right? Because we pay well, we have full benefits, up to 18 days of PTO. Like that stuff is harder to afford until you
Mm-hmm.
have some scale. And, I mean,
So,
just my health insurance alone on 7 employees is 23,000 a month. I mean, so like, those things start to be
mhm.
things. So I think you have to create a compelling offer first of all, like whether it's the pay, the lifestyle, the culture, and I think you can do that as you're small. like I would focus on being a small, scrappy startup, and like what do you differentiate yourself against being at a big company? The problem is, as your company grows, you'll outgrow some of those people that started with you as like a small, scrappy company, right? Like they loved that at first, being in this little environment where they know everybody's name and things like that. Where I have a company meeting once a quarter now where everybody gets together, and so nobody knows unless you work in a geographic pod with 10 other people. You don't know very many people, so it doesn't appeal to everybody. So to your point. Um, Figure out what your compelling reason is that they would want to work for you, and try some different be out on that. I do think wages matter, and it sounds like you've addressed some of that with raising prices and you know I don't know if you're using a pay for performance method, but like having it tied to their
Yeah.
productivity and that they can make more is compelling to the right kind of people.
Yeah, I think it
Right?
might be a little overcomplicated the way that I do it, but like you get bonuses based off of reviews. Most people do that, right? But you convert a customer from a one time to a recurring, you get a bonus off of that. If people don't do that,
We don't do it.
oh, okay.
Ours is just based on job is worth. So like job ticket hours, what I mean by a system that rewards productivity would be, let's say the job is worth $100 to the, just using a round number. I hope you don't have any $100 jobs anymore, but just let's use it for math, right?
Yeah.
$100 job, you pay 40% of that to the technician. Whether they
Mhm.
get it done in, let's say I'm going to use another fictitious number, $25 an hour. Nobody on here is still paying $25 an hour. That's what we're all paying 20 years ago. But like $25 an hour, like is what the company gets paid or whatever. So let's use 200 because it's easier. $200 an hour. They get $25 per hour for that job. They get it done in 4 hours, or they get it done in 3 hours. As long as the quality standards are good, they're actually making more per hour. We cap that at about 130% of the productivity. So someone can't blast off an extra hour off of 4 hours. They could do like 3.5 hours. They're making more per hour if they stick with the job, they stick around, they get good at the job. And then you also make more when you're screwing off between houses. Are you using teams or solos? Probably solos if you're
We use Teams right now, but we do that exact model of like a per house rate is
okay.
essentially what it comes down to. So
Yep.
we measure their performance like over the first like say 3-4 weeks, see like what's your quality score, are people asking you for re-cleans, all of that, and then we say now we can fit more homes in there so you get more money each day, and then go
I
off of
would
that. I have to do it manually.
experiment. I would run this experiment. I would let a couple of your very best people run as solos, and they will make a shit ton more money if they can do just 2 jobs a day.
Yeah.
If they can knock out a third, they're making 50% more. So
Okay.
my best technicians make over $60,000 a year cleaning houses,
Right, and that's what I
generating generating almost $140,000 in revenue. Like it's only a few people doing that, but like right, that's a better opportunity in the marketplace than they could probably find in any other job where it'll be the first time where a lot of people are actually like, oh my god, I'm rewarded for how hard I work. And if I work really hard, I don't screw off, I should make more money, and it'll be like it'll be a kind of a self-fulfilling cycle. You'll just keep getting better and better people over time. Maybe experiment with that. I know Sharon likes Teams. Teams has got one benefit is that only one person on the team has to be really good. Whereas with
well,
solos, everyone you hire has to be really good.
Matt, that's a terrible attitude. I can't even believe you said that. So,
yeah,
It's
A
okay,
players
I'm
only.
going to take
it's
the
true.
floor for 2 minutes and tell you this I came into with a very open mind. So, I started with a solo because that's what you do when you start, right? Oh my God, there's no way. I was going to, at 14 clients, I was going to get her a partner. I got her a partner at one client because we got a 4 out of a 5 at my very first job. I was heartbroken. What in the hell did she do wrong? Maria called him and he said, oh, her cleaning was perfect. She had to work too hard. She should have a partner. So by God, I got her one so I could get a 5. But I agree 100%, Matt. When you are a brand new company like I am, I'm not doing deep cleans. I'm going to rotate through the tasks like I do. I'm going to do just a regular clean. It's still a nightmare. And there's no way I want solo cleaners to have to work that hard while I build my base. Secondly,
They make so much more, Shannon, and
if they're,
ultimately,
I don't care how much more they make. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to prove to you, you are wrong. I'm going to prove to you, you are wrong. I'm going to have your 1,300 clients in a lot less time than it took you because I'm going to have the consistency there. When one of them is absent, the other one is still in that home, and clients love that. That's how I'm selling it now. I
two,
just
two things you can't do. Two things you can't do. We bill to 96% of employees' time is billable time. Like, you can't do that.
I can't do that. I know you're going to make more money per team than I am.
No,
I'm going to have less headaches and less turnover.
they make more money. And so this also probably
So do
goes to
you.
Texas.
So do you.
This goes to the Texas house thing versus like my ICP is more, I'd rather sell to like under 3,000 square foot homes is like my deal. Whereas in Texas, this may just be a Texas thing. If I have all 5,000 square foot homes, yeah, I can't send solos. Like, it could just be a regional thing. It could be like where you're at. If we were all dealing with, like, and again, I know the houses are big, right? Like, it's Texas, everything's big, right? Like, it's 4,000 square foot house is kind of a much more normal thing. 4,000 square foot house in St. Louis is $1 million house plus. We do it, and that's not in a
Well,
big.
it might be here too, but we're all millionaires.
Yeah.
No.
But that's an average anyway. And where I'm sitting at right now in Creve Coeur, where I'm at this co-working space, 4,000 square foot house is a 3 or 4 million. So it's not the norm, and it's not typically who we're selling to. So my sweet spot is 3,000 square foot or less. If we have a big house, we'll send 2 solos there. But then they'll go their own way to their next house. Like, and, we'll team up. But I'll tell you this: we track how consistently we send the same person to the same home. And we're at 70% with customers moving about 8% of their jobs and skipping about 13% of their jobs. So we're at like 91. There's only 9% slack that we could probably improve that number by. So if you're tracking that, and tell me, if you get it to 78%, then you would be beating us, right? In terms of consistency score of like sending the same technician, or at least one in your case. So
Yeah.
maybe 100% because of it. But,
Well, and I'm eager to see. And do you track all this stuff through Made Central, Matt? Is that all tracked through Made Central?
It's a report through Made Central that you can track a couple things with that. You can track preferred technician, we track. You can also track preferred time if you're going to give customers preferred time. We do give certain customers a preferred time if they pay us $25 extra for that. Like we'll charge you for it. But we think it needs to be more like 50, to be honest, to manage. Like, you want a preferred time, like you have to pay us at least X Y.
So does every first time customer, I mean, all of your, so you've got a lot of first time jobs when you got solos. Does every one of them pay a premium to have to be first in the morning?
No, so we'll try and schedule them like if we have between 8:30 and 9 arrival. Our techs need to be at the first house by 8:30, so 8:30 arrival. I mean, we can pair up a couple of solos later in the day to kind of go do a big job. We work in.
Man, you misunderstood me. I meant, do you get a premium price? Because really, the first job of the day is a guaranteed time. So do you get a premium price out of every first job? Because you've got a lot of first jobs.
Well, only 10% of our revenue is one-time jobs, which might only make 5% of the job.
No, a repeat client. Does a repeat client pay a premium price to get 8:30 in the morning?
A repeat client absolutely pays. Absolutely.
To get 8:30 in the morning.
To get 8:30, between 8:30 and 9:30, you pay an extra 25.
So you've got you're getting a lot of revenue out of just getting that $25 out of your first. How many first time jobs do you have every day?
Well, we do about 80, 90 jobs a day, but not all of them ask to be first. Right? That's only if they demand to be first. they're flexible and they can be first or second or get moved around,
Oh,
then
then they don't pay. Oh, okay. Okay.
training them to be flexible is the goal. And then on to your point about first times, we charge $75 an hour for one time work versus like between 60 and 65 for recurring work. So we
Okay.
charge a pretty good premium just to be a one-time customer, right? Fairly, I mean, what is it? Almost a 20% premium to be one time. So
Well, I like the $25 like extra charge or however you want to put it, right? Because what you do with that probably is you price anchor it, right? Like you start off maybe with the early ones and then save, or if you choose like 12 or 3 p.m. or later in the day, or you're not giving them a time, you get $25 off, or you bring that price down in their head.
So here's what we're gonna do. So Made Central. Ooh, I don't know if I want to say this. Yeah, they're gonna release an API. I think I'll just put it out there. I'm probably one of the first to know. Like Tomcat is one of like widely known. You all know now. They're gonna have an API. We're gonna build our own front end sales engine. And we want to encourage flexibility in a lot of ways. So one of the questions we'll ask is like, what time do you prefer? And so we're going to increase our pricing and be like, if I'm flexible, like on the price, I want between 8 and 10:30. Well, that's $25. That's actually, so it'd be like, I'm flexible, take $20 off the price, right?
Yeah.
I need this specific time. Right? Like if it's like morning, like 8 to 12, but the more granular you get, I need between 8 and 10. That's going to be like $50 for a 2-hour window, right? So if you give us a 4-hour window, that's only plus 10. But if you give us the whole day, we'll take $20 off the price, right? So we're going to train our customers to be flexible with the technology. And then in addition, what we want to do, and I could do that with Made Central now. I could just do a drop-down question that just asks like, what's your preferred time? I prefer morning, I prefer afternoon, or I'm flexible. Or I could get it as granular as I want with a bunch of different options. I could do that now, but it needs to be more baked in instead of like, it might be a little clunky with the way that it would be set up with Made Central now. It could be done. The other thing that I'd like to do, if you look at Chad Henley he's built his own engine, and I'll give Chad a plug. It's one of the best looking front ends for sales that I've seen. They encourage customers, like when they're picking different days of the week, like Fridays plus $15 or Mondays like negative 12. Like it'll be variable pricing based on the day of the week they pick. So, customers that demand Friday should know that is a high demand day. And there's the other reason that it's problematic when customers pick Friday is if they skip or do anything else, or want to move, there's no place to move them to, right? So earlier in the week, customers oftentimes when they want to make an adjustment have some room to move back into the week, and you can still save that revenue. So we try and oversell Mondays, even if we've given some discounts out on Monday, but we have to manually do it now. I want to encourage, like through the sales process, be like, hey, when you're picking a day of the week, and we can do it over the phone now too, but we haven't gotten there yet. But it's like, Mondays are bonus day. We actually give you, up to $12 off. Tuesday is $6 off. Wednesday is the price you've been quoted. Thursday is $4 more. Friday is $12 more than the price that you've been quoted. So there was some variability in pricing based on that. We can, explain to them why. It'd be better if they're picking most of this over the phone, because people don't really argue with computers, right? They tend not to. They seem irrational if they do. But that's the idea, is that you want to train your customers to be as flexible as possible. So I don't want any of them choosing Friday. I want them to be picking Monday. I want our Monday to be oversold, and then be like, in the future, I'd even like for monthlies to not even have a set day. Just be like, we're going to schedule you all on Monday, and we'll roll you wherever we need you, right? Like, oversell Monday by 10 grand, and then roll them forward into the week where we need them. That's the future of like creating some flexibility so that we hit our revenue goals, and and monthlies should be flexible. Like, why should you get to dictate all the terms when you're only getting, getting 5% of one of my employees' schedules, right? Yeah. You shouldn't be able to dictate all these terms without paying extra for it.
And we do that.
Well, man, I always charged more for monthlies. I never guarantee them the same team. I never did periodic tests at their homes like I did for weekly and bi-weeklies. And I never guaranteed them the same day. I told them that we would clean them in the week that they came up in that month, any day we had available. And it was
You
a
would
bit of work because we had 90 monthlies and we always used to have to call and schedule them all. But boy, when you get a week before that week is coming up and you look on Monday and you've got this team that's got, 8 jobs, you get to move forward because they're monthlies. And now, so we really ended up doing no one times towards the end because by the time we got done moving our monthlies, we were booked. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm not hiring another cleaner. I'm not advertising. We're done. And so I love monthlies. I absolutely love them because we place them in there, and I don't want to do one time. So I will definitely take monthlies on the new company.
good for growth, and they're a great
Mm-hmm.
opportunity because it's like young people are affording this. I think we're probably overly leaning towards. I would guess we're 600 in the 1300. I would guess we're 600 monthly, like 500 biweekly, and then like 100 weekly. I think that's kind of the distribution.
Oh,
The weeklies,
interesting.
yeah. So it definitely creates. They are the most likely to skip. They are the most likely to want to move appointments, and so we're going to have to re-engineer that in the future as we get bigger and bigger. And I like the idea of like what you described of like because we still track the consistency of like what team they're on and try and deliver that
Oh,
consistency.
no. I treated them like a one time. So, Matt, I'll tell you, I still remember my statistics like yesterday. I had 80 weeklies, I had 90 monthlies, and everybody else was every other week, and I had 754 repeat clients. So you need to figure out. I mean, I know you're the coach here, but we need to figure out. You need to figure out how you can convert those 600 because really, I bet if you added periodic tasks, you would find you'd convert a ton of those because people said, I don't get the tasks if I'm monthly. And I'm like, no.
You would love Made Central for this one feature that it has, which is like allows you to like track and rotate. We don't do that, but it's called a rotational deep clean feature.
Really?
It'll highlight like different like so it'll do one dry room, one wet room, and one bonus room. A bonus room would be like a stairwell or like a laundry room or like kind of like the other kind of rooms that kind of make a house that are kind of non-standard rooms. And you would deep clean that room as like you could also just create additional tasks on
What
your
I'm thinking, I would never do it that way. It's very
yeah
unorganized. You miss rooms. I do all baseboards, all door facings and frames, all fronts and kitchen cabinets, and the whole company does the same thing that week. So
yeah
it's pretty easy.
you could do that by creating an additional like you could instead of doing a remodel you could build tasks that rotate. People do it all kinds of ways. I use the Ream Lab because we want to create really detailed scopes of work with like what's in room. Like we'll take pictures in houses of like how they want their bed made, how things are at. So we have what we call really detailed site scopes, like where it's like this customer wants this, and this, and it's down to the room. But some people don't care about that much detail, and they will use that room log to create different rotations that they're doing, so that those will pop up every third visit, and they'll do those things. I think I'm not going to name. There's some companies that do that, like not to share how they do it, but there's a few companies that do it, and some fairly large companies, like $4 or $5 million companies, that's how they do it with less detail than we do, less like probably less. Quality is not their biggest focus for success. It's more of price and being in the markets that they're in. It's
Hmm.
there's some price sensitivity in some of those markets. They're fairly large companies, and they've done something kind of similar to what you're doing, but not using the ring logs, kind of using that feature a little bit.
I mean,
Works. People do all kinds of things to increase revenue. So I do like increasing like the value of weekly and biweekly customers. So we do that with weekly doesn't have to pay $25 extra for a guaranteed spot, right? So we don't have as many weeklies, so they can have a guaranteed spot for that. Biweeklies, $12, like instead of 25. Monthlies pay the full 25. So they're the ones that we're really trying to discourage from picking a time and all that stuff. Um, we do bonus tasks that we send them. We don't just do it. We send them a coupon like every quarter if you're a weekly or biweekly with a bonus task that they have to redeem and tell us what they want it for. It has a promo code and they can go into their portal and schedule that versus us picking it. They can apply that coupon to what they want to put in their portal. So similar we want to differentiate our customers, but we found it easier to put the onus on them as to what they want and make sure that shows up on the scope for that day. They want to use their, and then this is the difference. So a weekly customer gets $100 a quarter. A biweekly gets 50, and monthlies get nothing for bonus services a quarter. So we send out the coupons by what their frequency is. So the $50 could do, a couple. It really isn't going to do much. You might do 5 windows nowadays or something like that. So we want to encourage frequency, and we also want them to pick more stuff. Right? So if they pick a fridge, it'll take $50 off a fridge, which fridge freezer I think is $120 nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
To do those things. So they're still going to pay a little bit more.
Basically. Matt, what percentage uses the coupons?
20%.
So it's not that big a deal, really. It's not making that big an impact. I mean, the 20% is.
It's the folks that want to use it, though. It's a perceived value. And people buy gift cards and don't redeem gift cards.
Yeah, we count on that.
Yeah, I think 15% of gift cards don't ever get redeemed, at least, maybe 20%. Right? So it's just,
free money.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer it if more did, but it works out pretty well to at least show the value of the higher frequency. And that's, we're just trying to put it back on them. The other thing is if they don't skip in a quarter, right? So every quarter we send them and say, if you haven't skipped, check your portal. If there's no red on your portal, we'll give you another bonus $100. So if you don't skip anything in a quarter, like skip cleaning, and that's for everybody. No, that's weekly and biweeklies for monthlies.
That's nice. That's good.
So then it puts the onus back on them to go check your portal, let us know. And that does get redeemed pretty widely, and that kind of does reduce skips a little bit. During COVID, our skip rate was like 18%. I think we're at like 9.8 for this month.
Well, you know what? COVID wasn't that bad. If you're at 9, if you're at 9 now and it was only 18 at COVID, that's a good number. So now that I've interrupted, I'm going to continue to interrupt. I have 2 last questions. Matt, you talked about taking pictures in the home of the beds to make sure they made it the same way. Is that legal or illegal? Should we be taking pictures in people's homes of their beds? Because we're not supposed to be taking pictures in people's homes, correct?
No, that's not true. We have go to our terms of service on the website. It says that we're going to use pictures of them for training. It's not used for marketing purposes. So use it for internal training purposes. And there's nothing in my state that would make that illegal.
Okay, well, I shouldn't say illegal, but do customers get upset?
Never been an issue. It's in the terms of service, and again, it's just for internal training purposes to make their service better. I don't see it as like, we're not taking it and asking to use it for marketing and putting it on Instagram or anything like that. So I would discourage folks from, just taking pictures and putting it on Instagram. I think most customers appreciate like the fact that level of detail is there, and that if somebody does, and it's invariable, it's going to happen. I don't care how good you are, you're going to have turnover in this industry. So somebody new is going to clean their, someone's going to be on vacation, someone's going to leave. Industry average turnover is still close to 290%. I don't know, Ronnie, do you want to speak your number? I'll tell Ronnie if you say yours.
Well, sorry. Well, I wanted to speak on that picture thing really quick. What we'll tell people is if we don't get to take pictures, we're not going to stand by our service guarantee. Because if I don't have those pictures, how do I know that stuff like actually wasn't broken beforehand or something like that, right? So that's a big reason for quality control.
Cool.
In regards to turnover, so I've been in business 3 years, and our average team lifetime is 2 years. I did just fire one, so again, I don't have too many teams, right? So it brings my average down a lot, but it'd be 1.3 years after the team I just fired.
So I've been in business 6 weeks and I fired 2 out of the 4, Matt.
Oh, we do fire, like we'll fire quickly for sure, right? But our hiring process, like I probably only even really want to interview one out of every 100 applicants, right? Then we do video interviews beforehand. Then we go and meet for lunch to make sure that like the vibe isn't weird. And I even have them, a lot of them, sorry, I don't want to curse on here because I do that all the time. Uh, this really kills it with customers to where I say they have to pass the wife test to where whenever they meet my wife, if my wife doesn't like them, they're gone. And customers are like, "Oh, that's brilliant. We love that," right? Because like it really came up because one time whenever I did have whenever I was first starting, had this one person come over do like a little bit of a test clean. My wife's like, "Dude, I wanted to hide my purse when that person came in." And I was like, "Well, can't have that in someone's home, right?" So I got rid of her. But then I was like, "Okay, wife test, good test."
It
I
is
think
good.
you have to. I think it's a good idea. I mean, like, if you wouldn't feel comfortable them coming into your house, like, that's a pretty good standard, right? Like,
Mhm.
at least to set it. Um, so I'll share. So, a better number than turnover is retention. So, out of 56 techs, 32 of them have been with us a year or longer. We've also grown 40% over the last year. So, some of that is just growth. But turnover is still 80% because a lot happens in the first 30 days, like you described, and we track it all. Like, so, I mean, really a lot of it happens in the first 2 weeks. So
Good.
if somebody is not a good fit, like that's when you're going to really make those tough calls. And so you're going to have turnover. So I think we talk about turnover, how many W-2s we have. I think it's the wrong stat. I think retention is a better stat.
Hmm.
I've been pushing for that for a while in the software, but there's bigger problems to solve out there. I can calculate it on my own, but I think it's a better number is if you started with X amount, like how many of those techs were with you, you know, at the, last year versus what you have total now. And even it
Yeah.
would even be a better number if it actually tracked how many total techs you had at that snapshot a year ago. So we probably only had 42 or 43 techs a year ago. 32 of them are here, so we probably have 75% retention of
Hmm.
techs year over year. Um, but we've hired a hell of a lot of people in that time too. That just didn't fit the mold.
Yeah, it's
That
churn, right?
first
You
90
gotta
days is tough. That first
Yeah,
90 days is tough.
clear.
So
Yeah,
that's,
Ronnie,
that's
we're out of time really, but did Matt help you at all? And do you have any final questions now that you get to speak with Matt Ricketts, which you wanted to do,
hmm
that you would like to ask him?
yeah.
That he'll give you
So
for free.
So Matt, you're someone like where I want to be here very shortly, right? Within like probably like a 2 year time frame. I know that's very aggressive, but I'm gonna work my ass off to do it. But what I want to know is who is where you want to be at.
um, in the cleaning industry, you'd be hard pressed to find a lot of good examples. Like Pete Glavis is interesting. He's about $6 million, and we'll probably do 5.2 million. I remember like looking at Pete Glavis's business and being like, "That's where I want to be." And we're pretty close to that now, right? I'd also tell you just to take your time and just like focus on what you achieve and not really hold yourself up against the mirror because it's well, hold yourself to your own mirror, but like not looking at other companies and be like, "That's what I want to do. I got to do that, or else I'm not going to be happy." Because what is that? Comparison is the thief of joy. Is that the keep losing that headset? Comparison is the thief of joy. Right? So you're gonna, you know, if I were to like say I want to be where Tommy Mello is, that'd be a really discouraging. Like, I would love to be where Tommy Mello is.
Well, that's
I
what
think
Hormozi's podcast today was actually about, was because I learned how to get rid of the rush. Like he was like, I always felt like I had FOMO and everything. And he goes, what I realized is that I was just trying to rush everything, rush everything. I would see these other people and I'm like, I'm 33 or whatever, and I need to be X right now. And like, he's like, that put a lot of mental pressure on him because of that, the
let me,
comparisons. When he's like, I just
let
need
me
to
tell you
feel
something
this.
my wife said to me the other day. And I can tell you, it's kind of a little crude, so you already dropped an F bomb, but I'll give it out anyway. So, um, she like I was saying about like what where like we were talking about like what I'd like to do in the next 2 years, and she's like, it's funny. If you'd have been where you're at right now when we were in our 30s, you would have probably given these two fingers, right? You would cut these fucking fingers off. Sorry, but that's exactly what she said. And like to make what we make now, you would have given those two fingers up. And I laughed. I was like, well, that's pretty crude, but you know, like I think you're onto something, right? And she's like, what do you get when you get there? And I'm like, probably like wanting more.
Yeah.
So
There's
like,
always another mountain.
right. But like who do I follow? Who do I find interesting? I mean, I do think that that's an interesting question. I don't know that there's any industry folks that are like quite there. I think I follow along with like what the Hoffman brothers are doing here in town. It's a local privately held company that hasn't sold to PE. They do HVAC. They're about $150 million. So Chris Hoffman,
Nice.
he might be walking the halls in this building I'm in. So surrounding yourself with kind of interesting conversations is more valuable at this point in my life than like sometimes money or like we're doing well enough, right? And I certainly could spend it if I wanted to, right? Like there's always ways to spend it. In this room, like literally, there's a glass partition right to my right. There's probably people doing $100 million a year, and if I were to try and be like, I've got to do what they do to be happy, I would be miserable. Like a lot of my peers in these circles that I'm in, like, I'm the smallest company in these peer groups. I think that's okay, right? You want to
Well, that's where
be
you want to be, for sure.
right. So you want to be in circles like that. And Chris Hoffman's really interesting. He doesn't have a podcast or anything like that, but I found him on other podcasts. He's a really genuine guy. Like I see his dad at the gym working out at the same gym that I work out, and like generational business. And to think about it, he took it over from his dad at 10 million 20 years ago. So we have time, right? Like there's plenty of time. We can hand these off to our kids. And the only thing that I'm worried about is how fast the robots are going to get here. That's the only thing that I'm worried about. Do I have 20 years on it, right, before these robots get here and take over these businesses? I'm not gonna worry about things I can't control. So that's a maybe longer answer than you like, and I don't know that I gave you anybody specific, but that's
No.
where I think about this.
It's good. I mean, like, I suppose even the way that I was asking, it was more of like a benchmark. I don't want to like emulate, replicate that kind of thing, but it is good to know like where you can be in a specific
So
industry.
how about this? If you
But,
grow 30% a year, you will double every 2.8 years.
okay.
I
Well,
think you can do that and still take some profits out of your business. You start getting about 40% profits, you might not be eating. Like
mhm,
it's hard to be about 40% profits with these businesses and still be taking money.
right.
And it's easy to chase growth. So I think you have to focus on like both. Like I got to pay myself, right? And I've got to maintain, strong growth. Right? So, this year, and there's seasons for, growth and there's seasons for harvesting. Last few years with all that free money that like they were dumping on airplanes, I was able to grow without really worrying about money. I was like, I
I wish.
hate to admit this, I got an ERC check today.
Oh
Literally,
my God.
I literally am still getting government money from COVID. I literally got a Q1 2020 check today on my desk, remote deposited, because I'm like, I know they're going to shut off this faucet sooner or later, but there's like literally like still getting some COVID money. I got like a good couple of checks a couple months back, and I was like, they got to be stopping this. I can't believe it.
This is so
Like,
disgusting. I cannot believe we can waste our money like that. And I'll tell you, sometimes I wonder
just
did I
do all the right things.
I
No,
keep
kidding. But
thinking,
like,
Hannah, I kept that business, imagine where we'd be at. And the COVID money I gave to Mike, and he lost that damn business. But I want to say to y'all, before we close, your closing thoughts are interesting. And I'm 74 years old. I'm going to tell you right now, you have no idea what you're going to feel like 30, 40 years from now. It's I retired, remember, 2 years ago, and here I am starting up a cleaning service. You know why? Because it's fun. This time around, and when I listen to both of you talking about 30, 40, 50 million, don't get wrapped up in that because this time around, I'm having a ball. And I was wrong. I've hired 3 and I fired 1 in 6 weeks. But you know what? It doesn't bother me. It doesn't upset me. There's nothing. It's like Jim said, you can do this in your sleep when you're not trying to make millions. Do I think
Well, I will
I'll get there? In a way, I am, but I think it'll happen naturally. Yes, Matt.
say $10 million is a nice break point because everyone always I want to read like business and goes, you can hire real talent at 10 million. Like when you're pulling out like 2+ million, you got profits. Like you can afford to, like I hear people talk about hiring a CEO. I'm like, okay, you got to run your business up to that point. You can actually probably step back a little bit and hire people more talented than you at 2 million, even
Yes.
at 10. So it's a good number to chase if you really want to keep this long term, and then bring on a true president or CEO that could like drive operations. You could probably pull that off at a lesser number, but good talent's going to cost you $300,000-$400,000. You can hire a fractional CFO. You don't need necessarily that in house, but you're going to need, like, if you want like C-level talent down the road, like you're going to need to have some good profits. So that would be the only reason I would chase it. And the other thing is 2 million EBITDA is where private equity might be interested in your business, and you might get better multiples for your business. Like, most of us, even my business is probably only worth a 4 or 5 multiple. Most of our businesses are worth 2 or 3. And if you do have an ambition of creating generational wealth, and that is your target, 2 million EBITDA is probably that's a good number to shoot for, where I think you could create some real wealth for your family. And maybe even hang on and maybe keep 50% and ride it up with them. But it's a whole nother topic. I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation in our industry over the next decade. A lot of folks that are Sharon's age are done and not starting a cleaning company, and they're ready to retire, and they're going to have to sell their businesses.
Yes. And they aren't big enough. I will say that now. No, they're not big. I mean, there are people out there who've been doing this their entire lives, and they've got businesses that gross $500,000-$600,000 a year at 70. And I'm like, what the heck are they going to do? Because one thing I can tell you, I mean, you can't live. So my Social Security check goes to the standard restaurant that we go to every Friday night. I mean, you need money when you're old, or you might as well not be old because you're going to have nothing to do.
It's not fun. It's not fun.
You gotta have money to have fun. Absolutely. So build your businesses. That's maybe my final thought is, if you're at 500,000, for crying out loud, get some help and get this thing built up before you die with, hating your life and cleaning houses when you're 90.
10 technicians can build you $1 million business today.
Absolutely.
Almost anybody can manage 10 people. Much above that, like that gets a little harder. You might need some new skills, but almost all of us can manage 10 people. So that's all. That might be the thought. I think $1 million business is within reach for most people that in this industry today. And it's just about pricing, it's about strategy, and it's not about whether they have the leadership skills to do it, because most of them can lead 10 people.
And I think it's more like 15, Matt. I ran the numbers. I think I'm going to need 15 to do 1.5, to do 1 million. I do.
Maybe you're right.
But that is not hard. I mean, oh my God, you're right. It's just that you add 1 a month for 18 months or for 15 months, and you're there. And you need 12 repeat clients to support that. You can do that. You can. Okay, well, Matt, thank you. Ronnie, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. I appreciate it.
Hope you learned.
Join me on LinkedIn or Facebook.
No, I definitely will. Don't worry. You'll be like, Ronnie, will you please go away?
All
right.
Matt, good luck.
Nice.
Thank you all so much. Oh, by the way, join us in 3 weeks. We're going to have another startup that's been at it for 6 weeks who has 19 repeat clients. I will give that to him. He's doing very well. Yeah, he's getting some coaching from Holly. And I'm not sure yet who I'm going to have be the challenger. I'm still thinking about that. So I will let you all know. Thank you so much.
All right,
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.